Vi skal snakke om nye studentaktive læringsformer i basalfagene som anatomi, fysiologi og farmakologi. Mitt navn er David Jahando. And this lecture preferably will be in English, so the topic will be new active learning methods in basic science like anatomy, physiology, and pharmacology. If we look at the traditional class, we remember that the teacher was the center of the classroom and teaching some materials, and the student is listening or taking notes and so on. But during the years, they change it to the active learning, which is more effective, and the students become the center of the classroom and participate in the process of learning. Here we can say that active learning is providing a condition to increase the motivation for learning and also increasing the performance in process of learning. I like here to just focus a little bit more on the motivation and use the quotes from the Professor Dan Pink, which says that three factors are very important to increasing the motivation. The autonomy, which means the desire to be self-directed, the mastery, which means to get better at doing stuff, and the purpose, which is having a meaningful outcome. All of these are very important in active learning. For example, increasing the autonomy in the students, and the mastery means that people are use a lot of time, for example, to learning to play a new instrument like guitar. They put a lot of effort just to increase the self-satisfaction of doing things better, and the purpose also is very important, especially for the students, to connect it to the future job. There are lots of active learning techniques, methods just published, and then they just offered different type of techniques. And here, before I do talk about it, I like to see what are dealing with is basic science. It's a little bit different with the other sciences. Basic science is like learning a new language, and this is something that there are not much discussion about it. Students like learning a language should learn about the rules, about the different parts, and then they, for example, vocabulary and grammar, and they should memorize it somehow. And also we know that the students are living in a very intensive, stimulating period of their life here. And then there are a lot of sensory stimulation at the same time now for the students sitting in the classroom, like the iPhones, like the internet and the social medias, and also hundreds of movies, channels in the television. And then if I give them a very good lecture, I am lucky to just keep their attention and during the lecture, but it still just goes to the short-term memory. The point about learning those basic sciences is just to move those knowledge to the long-term memory. And as the physiology of this remembering things also the same with a rehearsal nerves, and here also the students need to repeat it again and again until it just not forgotten. It's like remembering a telephone number that we are repeating and repeating, and then this rehearsal actually is the act of a neuron, a small neuron that keep this circulation of the impulses in one nerve that remember the telephone number. One of the methods that start with increasing the or making the purpose for the students more meaningful is the startup discussion. That before we started and teaching them something in the first time, then in the beginning of the classroom we just ask them that answer some question like why this anatomic structure or this physiologic concept important for you. And then we can have them in the different subgroups and let them have a discussion and open discussion and talk about it. And this part actually I believe that we can use another method that which is called using these post-it papers. This is psychologically correct that they when they get it they like to write a short sentence, a meaningful short sentence on those papers, and then we can collect them. So they open the discussion, they understand it a little bit better about the purpose of this one, they pay more attention, to the course, and also the next time I can use those notes and just implant it inside the lecture for the second time if something is related, and then the students remember that, okay, this is the opinion that we wrote last time, and then it can be repeated every time to the next time with a very short session of the give the students to have this conversation and keep those discussion groups. And the other method also that I like very much, it's called the brainstorming. Here, as I give you an example in anatomy, and here also we have the pupils in different subgroups, and then when we teach them the next time, we can give them in the first session after that we are doing this brainstorming, we can give them, for example, 3 bone models and a set of questions at the same time, and then a group sitting and look at this and start to answering the question, like describe the shape of the bone, for example, or what do you notice on the surface of this bone. And then in the next session, we can see that which questions are answered difficultly, more difficult for the students, and then also add this to this new questionnaire, and also the bone models that they get will be included the previous difficult questions and plus the new questions, but it will be more, so we're increasing the volume of the knowledge here. And then we add more questions like describe the joint and which muscle is attached to this bone and so on, and they can answer. It's also proved that the students like digital media better than using the pen and paper. And then for this rehearsal, we can use a lot of digital media like Kahoot, that the students should answer this, and also maybe they want to be anonymous, which is a privilege at the same time. At the same time, maybe it's some negative aspects. We can send them a group email, so a question that they should answer, and then if they answer, if they reply, they will get the correct answer. So we actually encourage them to participate and not just be passive and reading it. And also we can use the social media and also the medias from the university like Fronter to just put some conversation there and some point of view. It's very important for the teacher to follow it and just read all the comments and so on to use it in the lectures. As I said, we should implement their opinions in our lecture to be connected. The other method that I use a lot, and this is very good for this basic science, we can use the subject specific activities. For example, I had a lecture about the heart anatomy, and then next lecture I give them a picture of the heart without the names, and then I put them again, and each students get one paper, and we ask them to fill out the blanks here and write the names that they remember. For example, here the student number 1 is writing this is aorta, and this is he doesn't remember. This one he think that this is a mitral valve, and here is a left ventricle correctly, inferior vena cava. Then the students hand the paper to the next student and get this paper from the student to the other side. So at the same time, he take the results that's written from the other students. Here, for example, Sigrun get the paper from Ule and also write this, okay, this is the aorta, and she knows this one. She says this pulmonary valve. This is not mitral, this is tricuspid valve, so she write tricuspid, and these two are the same. And then the Sigrun hand the paper to the next one, which is Stine, and she also have their own her own suggestions about those names. So at the same time, this student exposed 3 times to this picture and this terminology, and then the Ule take this paper back, so can see all the answers and can check it, and then I will give them the answers and say, okay, aorta is correct, this is the pulmonary valve, okay, and this is the tricuspid, so here he was wrong, for example. The next day we can use the questions that they answered mostly wrong again, so they will learn it a little bit more. It's called a check and pass game. It's also possible to do it on the projector. We just put a picture like that and with the ABCD, and they ask them just write on a piece of paper that what you know about those ABCD, and just it's about the shape of bone and classification of the bones based on the shape. So here the best thing is we have 5 students in each group. Here, for example, they start to write the name, and Trina said, for example, here A is a flat bone and B is a short bone, and so on. And then hand out these results to the next students, which is Ule, and Ule give his paper to the next one, which is Sigrun, and so on. And this a rotation of these answers for 5 times, and then the next one just write the name and the suggestions. And when Trina get back all the answers, then I show the results, and then she can see which answer is correct, and even give some points to the different students and see who get the highest point if it's proper in the classroom. I also tested this kind of activity in the classroom for the physiology, and especially the feedback mechanisms and so on, and it really works well, and they answer properly, and they learn it much faster. There are lots of challenges to do all these. The first one is the competition capacity and the competition culture, if they like to participate in the competition or not, and also the time limitation in the classroom. It's time consuming to do all these tests. The size of class is very important. We cannot have we cannot do most of this with the papers in the small groups in a big classroom. Maybe we need to do it more digital. And also the students' variability. It's very important because students are not the same. So if we put them in the larger group, like for example 5 students, and they should do something or write the answers, then it will be a little bit difficult, because some students will be very active and answer all the questions, and the 2 or 3 students maybe be totally shy or passive or don't participate as they should. Also, the resources is very important. How much paper, how much time, and how much money. For example, if we need more models of the bones or physiological models to give the students, they should be available.